Hey everybody, Yankee here again. You know, one thing that a lot of people in the gun community like to be prepared for is when the poop hits the fan, so to speak, in a very YouTube friendly way here. You know, anything from natural disasters to the collapse of the government and society as a whole, zombie apocalypse level stuff. Well, one of the things a lot of people get told, and I am bringing this up now because one of the viewers in my live chat the other night got told this. And by the way, we do a live chat every night at 6 p.m. Pacific time, except for Monday and Wednesday when it's at 5 p.m. Pacific time. If you want to come and join in the conversation, please join us. There's a link in the upper corner of this video. But like I was saying, one of my viewers was going in to buy a gun, and they were told by the people who run the gun shop that if you're buying a gun for poop hits the fan, you definitely have to buy a Glock. And the reason is Glocks are so popular. Everybody makes parts for Glocks. So in a situation where there's nothing new being made, there's plenty of parts around for them. You can always get parts for a Glock. Well, is that true or is that a misnomer? Is that a falsehood? Well, let's look at it here from a different angle. Let's say you buy a Glock because it's the most popular gun. There's more stuff out there for it, so you feel like I'll be able to find whatever I need come end times. Well, if everybody thinks that, that might be a problem. Here's the thing. If everyone needs Glock parts and people who are scavenging know that everybody needs Glock parts, what do you think they're going to take first when they loot a place, for lack of a better word? They're going to take the Glock parts. Because not only do they have Glocks, they know everybody else has Glocks, and they'll be able to trade chickens and stuff for them, whatever they need for the Glock parts. So they're not going to leave any sitting on the shelf. It's like, look at Campbell's soup. The most popular soup in the world is probably chicken noodle soup. At every store, when you go in, 80% of the cans on the shelf are often chicken noodle soup. So you might be able to assume, well, the best soup to like in the apocalypse is chicken noodle. But that's not really true. Because everyone who gets to that grocery store before you is going to take the chicken noodle. And even though it made up 80% of the shelf or more, that's not what's going to be left if you get there second or third. What's going to be left is, like, say, if you have a soup you like that's not as popular, like, say, Campbell's moose knuckle soup or something. Well, that's likely to be left on the shelf because nobody wanted it. They didn't think they could trade it for anything. They're not going to eat it themselves, and they didn't think it had a lot of value on the market. So why waste time and space carrying it, taking it with you? That's extra weight for a product you're probably not going to have room to carry it or a reason to have it because no one's going to want it. It ain't worth much. Take the Glock parts. They're worth more. Because of that mentality. It's the same thing with ammo. People say, buy 9mm because 9mm is the most, readily available caliber. It's the one they make, more of than anything else. In fact, if you look at ammo manufacturing, 22 and 9mm probably make up 80% of the market easy because that's what most people are looking for. But what happens every time there's an ammo shortage? Who are the first people who are screwed? People who shoot 22 and people who shoot 9mm. Because everybody wants it for themselves and they know it's valuable to everybody else, so they hoard it. Same things if we have an apocalypse and you have just Glocks. It's going to be a problem. So depending on how you look at it, you could say Glocks are great. They are great. They're great guns and you'll have as much chance of it being a good gun as you would with any other semi-automatic gun. But like I said, since everyone has them and everyone knows the parts are valuable, they're going to disappear pretty quickly, just like 9mm does during an ammo shortage. So in some ways, it could be the absolute worst gun for prepping for poop hits the fan. If you look at it that way, in fact, that might be the title of my video. That'll piss off some Glock tards. So you have to think through these things. It's never a good idea to count on any one thing. And in fact, sometimes you could be better off if your gun is a little less common. Here's another thing. Instead of thinking, what gun will I be able to get more parts for? Because that's not a given with any gun, especially not a popular gun like a Glock. What gun is the least likely to need those parts? Like a bolt-action rifle or a revolver. Things that have a tendency to not need extra little parts. They don't wear out certain little tiny pieces. It's more of an enclosed system. It's more of a controlled system, and they're just generally overall more reliable. A revolver has a much greater chance of, from the time it's produced to the time you shoot the barrel out, of not needing a major repair. Far more so than any semi-automatic. They're going to need repairs as you go. You're going to need to replace out worn this or worn that or worn springs. Not so much of that in a revolver. There are springs, but they are definitely sturdier than the ones that are in semi-autos, and they last longer. So there's lots of things you have to think of. Is Glock a good gun for poop hits a fan? Well, of course it is. It's a great gun, period. Is a P320 a great gun for the same situation? Of course it is. Great gun, period. But like I said, in these situations, you have to look at very many different aspects here. And you have to cover your bases. Yeah, have a Glock, but have other things too. You want to be able, this is one of the reasons why I tell people you should diversify in both caliber and manufacturer, because you want to be able to use what you find. You have to be able to have use for that. If you find 40, it's good to say, hey, I've got a gun at home that shoots 40. I can use this. If you find parts for a Walther PDP, you can be like, I've got a Walther PDP that could use these parts. If it ever breaks down, I'll start carrying that because if I wear it out, I got extra parts for it. Diversify. I don't think there's a single gun solution, period, for any of these circumstances. So when you are deciding what gun you want for the apocalypse, keep in mind that you probably shouldn't be worrying about what one gun you want. You should be thinking about what guns do you want to have during the apocalypse, because having options really increases your chance of survival.